everyone, Sean here, JT is Reborn, and this is going to be my first ever review on the all-new, brand-new Monarch TV show. So in this video, this past week, the first two episodes of the first live-action Monsterverse series, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, dropped on Apple TV+. The third episode premieres on Wednesday. So in this video, you'll see my little breakdown of what happens in the first two episodes, and I'll give my overall thoughts and theories and opinions and all sorts of other things that we can talk about within this thing. So, overall consensus within the first two episodes, I'm really quite enjoying it. I think the human storyline is very interesting. There's a big mystery. The cast so far has done pretty well. The effects-wise, between like with the way the Titans look and the way it's shot and production values, I mean, this is a top-tier production thing. I mean, it looks like a big cinematic movie, and so far so good. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, give a quick recap of episode 1, what happens in there, and then I'll kind of get some speculation things and talk about some things, and then we'll move right into episode 2. So I'm not sure how these videos are going to turn out. I guess I'll try and keep them voiceover focused. But again, it's my first time trying to cover like the Monarch TV series, so I mean, I'm sure I'll kind of figure it out as the more episodes air. So after this week, after the first two episodes premiered, then we'll go straight into like episode 3 next week, and then kind of move on from there. And then every single week I'll get a Monarch video out. So I guess it'll be voiceover. So let's go ahead and get started, I suppose. So the first episode, it opens up on Skull Island, and we see John Goodman reprising his role as Bill Randa from Kong Skull Island. We get to see a part of the Skull Island adventure we never really knew about. We see him kind of like, this has been a clip that's already been released online. It's him like talking about like leaving some sort of legacy, hence the title Monarch Legacy of Monsters. And he's recording something on his camera, and he has this bag full of files, and he ends up getting chased by some other longlegs, you know, kind of like that scene in Skull Island. And he runs all the way to the shoreline or whatever, and like he's about to get taken down by this thing, so he throws his files into the oceans, and just he's about to get killed by a manaclaw, or one of these mother longlegs. Some sort of manaclaw creature comes out, and the two monsters fight, and then they crash into the ocean. And then you see Randa, he's kind of looking out, and you see his files kind of drift away somewhere into the ocean, only to be discovered like 30, 40 years later in 2013, with a lot of fish, of course. And those files later end up in the possession of his son, Hiroshi Randa. And then we get the opening theme music. So, pretty cool opening. We get some Titan action right there. Nice to see John Goodman back, which was a genuine surprise when I saw him in the trailer for the series. And then we cut to many years later. So, the setting of the show is kind of like jumps around to different timelines. We open up on Skull Island. We did get a brief little Kong stock footage cameo. So, Kong does technically appear in this series. And then we cut to 2015, so this is after G-Day. This is kind of dealing with the fallout. It's kind of the world-building stuff we didn't really have time to fully explore in the movies. That's what the show is going to kind of do. So we're introduced to a character by the name of Kate Randa, so Bill Randa's granddaughter, one of them at least, or one of his grandkids. She's traveling from the United States to Tokyo, Japan to settle some affairs of her father. Her father's name is Hiroshi, so that's Bill Randa's son that we come to find out he had a wife with a woman named Kiko. So he's off, like she's off to settle affairs. She goes into like she finds out that he had a lease in some building in Japan. She goes to investigate, and as soon as she opens up, she discovers that there's a woman and another person living there, which turns out to be her half-brother Kentaro and his mom Emiko. So it turns out that her dad Hiroshi had a secret family that neither side knew about, and so there's kind of this like interesting mystery going on with it and kind of the shady stuff. What I also really liked about this is we get to see some of the fallout and how the world changed immediately after Godzilla's attack in San Francisco. Since the setting is 2015, you know, Kate, she has some PTSD. Turns out she was on the Golden Gate Bridge when Godzilla attacked it. And we also get to see kind of the darker side, because I know if you watch 2014, Godzilla like stands up and then he stops the missiles from kind of hitting these kids in a way, but not every kid was so fortunate as Sam Brody was in that movie. So, like, he gets hit by some missiles or whatever, and then he kind of, like, crashes through the bridge, and there's some kids on a bus, and Godzilla's just like, fuck them kids, and the kids kind of, like, in the bus crash down to the middle of the ocean, and Godzilla kind of roars. Like I said, the VFX here are pretty good. It's definitely a bold way to kind of start the series, showcasing, like, it's not, like, an intentional thing that he tries to do. I also kind of like the memes I've seen online of some people like he's innocent and all that. And to be fair, the bus driver did kind of get like knocked out. So I mean, you could have like gotten the kids off, like, because Kate was off the bus, and then there's some other people she was able to get off, but like not everyone in time. So yeah, it's just kind of like a shady scenario, because like I said, it's not like he's intentionally like targeting like anything. It's just the collateral damage fallout, because this is a big giant monster. So her going to Japan, like I said, we get to see some of the world building, kind of the fallouts, like people getting sprayed with stuff on the plane. Japan has all these defense force things kind of set up, like missiles within the city, preparing for some sort of Titan attack. Now, we know Godzilla doesn't publicly show face for like 5 years, but Monarch knew of stuff that was kind of going on in between. So we know he's not going to attack Tokyo if you follow kind of the comics and like you watch King of the Monsters. But they are prepared for things. Like I said, there's a scene where she kind of experiences some PTSD from the attack and goes into a panic mode, because they all have these shelters in Japan. So Japan is probably the most prepared place for these Titan attacks. But again, it's the world building stuff, the interesting things. We also see Kentaro, like I said, is her half brother. That is Hiroshi's son in there. And we also meet like Emiko. So like I said, there's already an interesting angle. Like, whoa, okay, so this woman here has like a half brother that she didn't know about. Like these two are like kind of confused. Like, wait a minute, what was her dad really up to? Finding out, like, can you imagine like the reaction you have is you find out your father had like a secret family all the way off in Japan that nobody ever knew about. So a lot of shady parental figures within the Monarch organization as we come to see. And that's one of the things I do like about this series, is we get to see kind of like the darker side of Monarch, something that the movies didn't really showcase too much, the CIA government cover-up thing and all the crazy stuff there. So Kentaro we're also introduced to a girl named May, who is a computer hacker, and after breaking in these files, she gets a ping from Monarch. The show, of course, is set over the course of 2 timelines. So the present day stuff, well, kind of present day, back in 2015, that's the Kentaro storyline with Kate and that. So that's their mystery there, is like Bill Randa's files. And we flash back even further, so we went from the 1970s, and then we also flash to the right after 2014 and 2015, and then we go to the 1950s. This particular opening bit right, or this portion of the episode is set in 1959. So the 3 characters, we have young Bill Randa, we have a character by the name of Lee Shaw, who's a character that actually did first appear in Godzilla Awakening. And then we also have Kiko Randa, who, you know, as you know, is Bill's wife, and then Hiroshi's mother, if you will. And so again, this is the young Lee Shaw, played by Wyatt Russell. Kurt Russell plays the older version of him. This part is set in Kazakhstan, 1959. They're investigating some potential Muto activity, at which point these little monsters known as like endoswarm creatures like break free from their shells, if you will. And then we see Kiko get kind of dragged under, and then that's basically, and she's kind of seemingly dies, and that's kind of like the end of that particular episode. So episode 1, really good start, really engaging human storyline here, which is a plus. Great VFX design. I mean, like I said, this thing looks really movie quality. There are some questionable continuity kind of flubs, such as the group calling them Titans back in the 50s, which, I mean, they didn't really call them that until King of the Monsters, because before they were called Mutos, but it's so minor. And the human storyline is kind of interesting enough to kind of carry things, so I wouldn't really kind of worry about it. But like I said, for me, like, between the 2 episodes so far, I'm more interested in the 1950s stuff than I am the present day stuff. But the present day stuff automatically gets more interesting by the end of the 2nd episode when they bring in Kurt Russell. Because like I said, the 3 human leads, the actors are doing a pretty good job. I think I need a little bit more on their end to make them a little bit more interesting. But the stuff of the 50s, like I said, that's the more exciting stuff for me personally following. But it's going to become better in the present day once you add in Kurt Russell. So that was episode 1. And now going to episode 2, I guess I'll kind of talk about these in 2 separate timelines, if you will. So episode 2 answers a question that's been kind of bugging me and various Monsterverse fans for many years. What happened to the USS Lawton? You know, the ship that Bill Randa mentions in Kong Skull Island? He's like, you ever hear the USS Lawton? Neither did the public. Out of the 1,000 young men on this ship, I was the only survivor. So, and he even introduced some kind of, because he even showcased some photos of the ship, which I'm starting to question, like, what is the legitimacy of those photos? How do they kind of end up being where they're at? Because when you discover the ship in this episode, it actually is in the middle of the jungle, but those photos showcased it like on the shoreline and some claw marks in there. So I'm wondering how that all kind of comes to be and kind of fits in terms of the timeline, but I'm sure we'll get some answers. But we at least get to see the monster that caused this. So as you know, in the previous episode was 1959, so it's 7 years, and then this episode opens in 1952 Manila with a young Lee Shaw, where he gets ordered to act as a military escort for a Dr. Kiko Mura. This is the woman who would later become Bill Randa's wife. So her and Lee are investigating some radiation patterns in the Philippines. This is where they first are introduced to a young Bill Randa, who we find out is a cryptozoologist, and he's investigating the same things. Lee kind of has enough of this nonsense, and then he's just like, I'm going to get out of here. I'll send somebody back. I'm done with this stuff. So Randa are off kind of investigating. They kind of find some things that kind of line up with each other. And this is where they end up discovering the USS Lawton in the middle of the Philippine jungle, thousands of miles from where it supposedly sank. And as you know, Bill Randa was the only survivor. And so this is exciting to me. Like, this is finally answering the question that's bugged me and Monsterverse fans for many years. What sank the Lawton? And it turns out to be a creature known as the Ion Dragon. This thing looks really cool. I think he's kind of adorable, but it kind of lives there on the ship. I don't know how I brought it there. Maybe this is an infant or something, but you kind of see like these bodies that are kind of like decomposing within the ship, if you will, kind of preserved in this like mucousy substance or whatever. And so like by the end of this, like once Shaw kind of notices things, there's like a bit of an action sequence. He helps save Randa's life, and then he becomes a believer, and we discover a cool new Titan. So that's the stuff in the 50s. And then cutting to the present day stuff. So Kentaro, after the whole like issue with Kate and all that, he finds some more Monarch stuff in his dad's office, showcasing a photo of a young Lee Shaw and some stuff from the Philippines. This is most likely the Philippine footage of Godzilla. So Kate then gets confronted by a guy named Tim, who was working for Monarch, who wants the Monarch files belong to Bill Randa. He seems very shady, and he tries to kidnap Kate, who escapes from him. They also try to confront Kentaro and his mom, but he escapes and regroups with Kate and in May, where they find out where Lee Shaw's at. And then we get the older version of him, played by one of my favorite actors, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Kurt Russell, who is basically being kept under house arrest in this Monarch retirement home of sorts. It's like a prison here, but it's a nice one. So, but everything's kind of monitored, and like they don't want him quacking or anything like that. So the episode kind of like, at least the modern day section, ends with him kind of cutting off his ankle bracelet that's been kind of monitoring him. And based on the stuff we know about episode 3, it seems that they're headed to Alaska in search of the truth about Hiroshi Randa. Perhaps he is still even alive, because from what the characters know is that like he kind of just disappeared on something in Alaska, but you never found a death certificate or anything like that. So it's possible he is still alive in this series. So I'm really excited to see how that kind of unfolds. Also, one thing that's interesting is Kurt Russell is supposed to be playing a character who was like 90 years old. And like it kind of makes me wonder if there's some sort of thing affecting the aging of the characters in the series. Perhaps the Titan radiation. Because like I said, you go from Bill Randa in the 1950s, the young version of him, and then to Kong Skull Island. He looks really, really kind of like a lot older in that scene. But then you look at Kurt Russell. I mean, granted, Kurt Russell has very good genetics. I mean, the man is like aged very gracefully for being like 72 years old. But there's still kind of something like mysterious about it. It makes you wonder if there's something kind of prolonging the lives of some people and some things affecting the age of others. So that's sort of the stuff that I really kind of like intrigued to see where the series kind of goes from here. So I like the fact that we're getting the shadier side of Monarch, because again, the movies never really showcased this. I wonder if like Serizawa really knows anything about this sort of stuff here. But again, it's an interesting mystery so far. There's been a few, like, I mean, some people may like want more monster action, but again, this is a series, so they got to space it out over the course of the 10 episodes. But for a 2-episode start to the series, I have been enjoying this series quite a bit. Like I said, there's an exciting mystery going on here. We get to see the fallout of like 2014 a little bit more in depth than we did in like King of the Monsters, because obviously King of the Monsters Monarch has kind of gone public. So what I'm thinking about these files are, this is what like they're going to be the people who release the files to the public, and we'll get to see the fallout of that. And then obviously King of the Monsters is 5 years after this one. So like, I mean, the world's kind of already gotten used to all this stuff with the Titans and all that, but there's some interesting stuff at play here. Again, I'm excited to see where the next episode goes. It's going to be airing on Wednesday. But again, we got some answered questions that have been bugging me. We got to see the monster that affected the USS Lawton. I am curious to see when they do the first intro to Godzilla, like the first in timeline where like humanity discovers Godzilla, because we're not quite there yet, because it's 1952. Because if you remember in 2014, he's like, in 1954 we awakened something. So like, I wonder where Godzilla is going to like factor in. Like, are these going to be the first people that meet him or something like that? I don't know. There's a lot of big mystery stuff. Again, I think there's also some stuff going around with the characters' ages. Like, some have aged more gracefully than others, and maybe that's a secret within the Monarch files that was kind of kept from them. But yeah. So like I said, we get the crazier, like kind of scarier side of Monarch with the kind of like doing some more shady stuff, like I said, with what they did with Lee Shaw and all that. Because Monarch has been painted more in a positive light in the movies, but here we get to see kind of the grittier, like darker side of Monarch that we didn't really get to showcase there, and that's one of the more exciting aspects of it. And also seeing the collateral damage fall, which we did kind of see in King of the Monsters with, like, you know, Mark Russell and his son Andrew, but we didn't really see that happen. Here we actually saw the bus kind of go over, and we get to see like Kate's PTSD, if you will. So there's some exciting stuff at play here. I think the cast is pretty good. I've liked the 50s stuff more than the present day stuff, because like I said, that's the more kind of exciting, mysterious stuff that I'd like to see. But the present day stuff is pretty interesting too, with the human storyline. And of course, now that they've added in Kurt Russell, it's going to get a lot better. So they'll probably, like, because like I said, the 50s stuff was a little like kind of up here, and then like the present day stuff was kind of down here a little bit. Not too far off, but I mean, the 50 stuff is more interesting beforehand, but now that you got Kurt Russell in there, it's just only going to get, like, a lot better from there. So, very good show. Good performances all around. Like I said, I like Wyatt Russell, and I like Kurt Russell, the young Bill Randa, and seeing John Goodman and all that. There's a lot of exciting stuff within this series, and I think the human stuff is keeping me entertained when the monster stuff isn't going on. Yeah, I'd still like a little bit more monster action, but, like, like I said, this is a series, so you have to kind of get audiences invested in the human stuff to make that compelling. Because, like, even without the monster stuff, there is an interesting story at play here. So the monster stuff is just kind of the icing on the cake. And like I said, seeing the different aspects of Monarch that we didn't quite showcase within the films kind of makes this a little bit more interesting line. So, but anyway, so big thumbs up for me from the first 2 episodes of the live-action Monsterverse Monarch series. I'm excited to see, like, this series go on for the next like 8 or so weeks, and then I think it's going to end up in January. But like I said, from what we got so far in these first 2 episodes, I'm really hooked. I watched the episodes twice. Great VFX, great performances all around, intriguing storyline, and seeing aspects of the Monsterverse that we didn't really have time to explore in the film. So I wonder if other Monsterverse characters like Sarah Zowell will show up, or maybe we'll even see like Alan Jonah or something. There's a lot worth exploring in this. So, but anyways, if you have watched the first 2 episodes of Monarch Legacy of Monsters on Apple TV+, what did you think of them? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Be sure to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications, all the fun stuff. And I'll be back, I guess, next week with more Monarch videos. I want to get these 2 off in like one video, so yeah, there we go. I probably have to edit this thing next, but I am excited to see where the show goes from here. Like I said, I can't wait to see episode 3. It seems that they're going to Alaska, and I'm looking forward to watching how the mystery unfolds some more in the present time and the past. So, very good stuff, very good stuff. But anyways, that's all I have to say. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.